Hey everyone, Paul Wilson here for another e-learning live stream. Today we're brought to you by reviewmyelearning.com, and what we're going to be talking about today is probably one of the most common questions that I get either on the forums or in the comments of my YouTube videos, and that would be how do I share my e-learning with my stakeholders, with my subject matter experts, with my clients? There's many versions of this question over and over again. And of course, over the years, I've come up with different solutions. One of the things that's fairly effective is creating your own web server. And the problem with that is that if you're not technically minded, I've referred people to that solution in the past, but if you're not technically minded, it can be cumbersome to do that. So I encourage people to consider a service like Review My eLearning, which is what we're going to be talking about today, because it takes the guesswork out. It makes it easy, and it actually makes it easier for your stakeholders and subject matter experts. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The first thing we want to cover today is how do you prepare your e-learning course for review on a site like reviewmyelearning.com, or for that matter, how do you prepare it for your LMS, your learning management system, which is your organization's place where e-learning, of course, goes. The thing that is relatively exciting about this process is that the process of publishing your e-learning course for your LMS and publishing your e-learning course for your reviewmyelearning.com is exactly the same. So we're going to cover those procedures today. Let's go ahead and open up Adobe Captivate. I'm going to switch to my desktop view here, and we'll see Adobe Captivate launch in just a moment here. By the way, there is a live chat for this live stream, so if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the live chat, which is over to your right, the right-hand side of the video, if you're watching this on youtube.com. I will do my best to try and get to any questions that you might have, of course, but obviously we've got some content to cover off here, so I'll pause from time to time and just glance over at the live chat to make sure that I've addressed your questions. So first thing we need is an e-learning course. So let me go ahead and open up one of my projects here. We'll just open, and I have this on my desktop here, a sample course that we're going to use today. But this would work for any course that you might have ready to go. This is just a simple project that I've built. It's a non-responsive design project, so the process would be the same whether you're publishing for responsive design or non-responsive design. In this case here, the very first thing that you need to do is to make sure that your e-learning reporting is set up correctly. So let's go ahead and click on the quiz drop-down menu. There's a number of ways you can get to this screen, but we're going to use this method here because we are dealing with scores and how they're reported to your learning management system or reviewmyelearning.com. So click on quiz preferences, and we'll see, of course, the quiz preferences section here. There are a couple of categories within this, but the first thing that we're going to look at is the reporting section here. Let's uncheck this and show you essentially what it looks like when you're just getting started. So you're going to see this screen here. It's going to say enable reporting for this project, and we need to select that checkbox there. The first drop-down deals with some specific other standard LMSs. There are some unique configurations that need to be in place for LMSs such as Moodle. If you're using an internal server, that's a little bit of a different process. But most of the time you're going to have other standard LMSs selected. Adobe Connect is an option because it's not really an LMS, but you certainly can publish Adobe Captivate content to Adobe Connect and use it much like you would an LMS. Question mark perception, I've never worked with that one myself, but that's an option that's available. So if your LMS happens to be one of the options that you see here, you're going to want to make those choices. Otherwise, other standard LMSs is fine. Now, when we're talking about learning management systems and e-learning reporting standards, Adobe Captivate is capable of publishing to one of the 4 standards that you see here. SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004. SCORM, by the way, stands for Shareable Content Object Reference Model, which is a fancy acronym for just simply the methodology that's being used to convey data from your e-learning course to your learning management system. There have been 2 versions that you see here. SCORM 1.2 is the earlier of the 2, and SCORM 2004 is the more up-to-date. And we also have AICC, which is the Aviation Industry Computer-Based Training Committee. Not very popular, to be honest with you. I even worked in the aviation industry, and we still used SCORM 1.2. SCORM 1.2 is probably the most popular e-learning reporting format. It's kind of like the lowest common denominator. But I would recommend that if your LMS is capable of SCORM 2004, that you choose that. The new kid on the block is XAPI, which at some point was called Tin Can. I'm not sure why the change in name, but XAPI is sort of Experience API, and it works very similar to SCORM 2004, but has some additional updated and enhancements. None that really you can take advantage of in Adobe Captivate, but the advantage of XAPI, if your LMS supports it, is that you can actually attach XAPI calls to all sorts of different activities, not just e-learning. So again, XAPI is the same people as the SCORM people as well. So it could have just as easily been called SCORM 2014 or 15 or something like that when it came out. So it's, they decided to drop the SCORM name and call it something different, but the same people support it. In this case here, for today's purposes, we are going to work with SCORM 2004, just to give you an example of that. But just note that if I choose SCORM 1.2, status representation is an option, and success completion criteria is a separate choice. And I'll explain more about that in a little bit. This is going to be very similar to AICC. Again, status representation, SCORM completion criteria here. In SCORM 2004 and XAPI, completion and success are 2 different things. So in this case here, let's work with SCORM 2004 and show you the options that are available. So completion criteria is what will denote your learner being complete. So it could be as simple as user access, which I don't think I would recommend, or it could be a certain number of slide views and or the quiz being passed or attempted and so on. So for example, if I wasn't concerned about the quiz, but I wanted completion to be based off of all of the slides being viewed in the course, I might choose this. This particular course that I'm working with actually has a slide that appears after the quiz results slide. So there is the potential that a user might not get to all slide views but still finish this course. So I might want to say, instead of 100%, I might choose that, so long as they visit 12 of my 13 slides, they will be considered complete. Now, often I'll leave quiz unselected in completion criteria because to me that really belongs in success criteria. So in a case like here, I would probably uncheck slide views from success. So what makes this a successfully completed course? Completed is getting to the last slide or to the quiz results slide. Success is obviously the quiz is passed. And we'll just navigate away from this for a moment and we'll go over to pass or fail. Quiz pass or fail is set here. So in this case here, we might want to make sure that everyone gets at least 50% in order to be successful. I only have 2 questions in this, so I want to make it easy for them to pass. If passing grade, they'll continue to the final slide of the course. Otherwise, we'll give them infinite attempts and show a retake button if that's what we want to do. Going back to reporting for a second, from that point, you're going to see some options here. Generally, I don't spend a lot of time on the data to report and the advanced quiz reporting options, but interaction data is something you definitely want to capture. This is simply the data that is stored in your, in this case here, your question. So if I choose answer A or answer B or answer C, I want to know what answer. I don't simply want to just know the score that the learner achieved. Because of course continuous improvement is applicable to what we do as well as e-learning developers. So for example, if everyone failed question 5 of your assessment, I'd want to know what answers they were selecting so I can see, is it a problem with my course? Is it a problem with the way I've phrased the question? What have you. So it could be a lot of different things. So I want to capture that interaction data. Quite frankly, I don't know why you would leave it unchecked. There's no reason not to have this selected. LMS initialization text. This is simply the text that you want to appear in the browser, something like this, while the course is loading, rather than seeing a blank. Nowadays, with most internet connections, this probably isn't going to be an issue. I almost never even see the LMS initialization text. In this case here, you can put anything you want there that makes logical sense, obviously translated to whatever languages that you're displaying for learners as well. Let's take a look at the advanced button here, and I'll just show you a couple things here. You can send data on every slide. This would be a good precaution if you're concerned about network connectivity. By default, Adobe Captivate bookmarks your learner's progress and stores that in the LMS. But, you know, if you don't want them to exit the course and restart the course from where they left off, you can check Never Send Resume Data, and essentially every time they launch the course, they would start from the beginning again. Similar to this, there's a set exit to normal after completion. This isn't available in all e-learning standards, but essentially what this does is if your learner completes the course and they're successful, but they wish to launch it again, this will allow them to start from the beginning and not simply show up at the final quiz results slide, for example. I've never had a reason to change escape version and session ID. This essentially converts your escape version and session ID to their URL equivalents. That's something more technical than I'm capable of knowing. So I usually just leave that as is. In fact, I often will just leave this with the default settings that you see here. By the way, on both of these screens, I want to draw your attention to this here. There are help links which will take you to pages that Adobe has set up to explain many of the things that I'll be talking about today. I'll be going into a little bit more detail, and obviously we'll be providing some practical examples, but Adobe's very good at including these helps. We tend to I almost ignore help, I guess, but I would encourage you to use those if you're unsure of what these settings do, and of course any of these settings as well. Now, before I move on from here, I want to point out that with each of our e-learning reporting standards, you do have this configure button. And I really encourage you to look at this because, of course, this is something that a lot of people ignore and then just leave it to their learning management system administrator to fill out manually when they upload your course. When I click on this, one thing unique to SCORM 2004 is the ability to select which version of SCORM 2004. Third edition seems to be the most common. It certainly is the default in Captivate. So I would check with your LMS administrator or your LMS vendor to confirm which version of SCORM 2004 or or which version of SCORM, quite frankly, that they support, and then choose appropriately. Sorry, I'm just working on my morning coffee at the same time here. In this case here, I'm going to put in a course identifier. This could be HR 101, whatever naming convention or ID convention that you use. Probably one of the most important things on this manifest file is that you include a proper name. You would think that Adobe Captivate would scrape the title from your project category and preferences, but here we need to provide this. And I think it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, when we upload this course later to reviewmyelearning.com, I don't want it to say Captivate eLearning course. I want it to say, in this case here, respect in the workplace. And of course, you can provide an appropriate description. I usually put the learning objectives in here as a good description. If this is a preliminary version, you might want to call this, 0.1 or something like that. But whatever version number, you want to keep track of which version you're doing here. You don't want to get it confused with other earlier versions if this is the most up-to-date. And, you could replicate, if you have individual SCOs that contribute to an overall course shell, you could say, well, this is module 1 and it's called whatever it's called. So that's going to all get put into your manifest file. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. We'll go with those simple settings there. But one last thing before we exit Captivate, remember the pass or fail options. One of the things to consider is that often there are quiz pass percentage settings in your learning management system as well. You have to make sure they match, because sometimes the LMS will override whatever you put here as well. So in E. Miller is saying in Canvas, if you don't put the title in at this point, then you'll never be able to change it. So that's a really good tip there. I think it's really important that we, make sure that we take the time to make sure this is all filled out correctly. Yeah, and E. Miller is saying that it will say Adobe Captivate course forever, which is probably not ideal, especially if you're trying to find that particular course you're looking for. So let's go ahead and click OK. So we've set up our configuration for this particular project, and there are other smaller things that you can do as well. I won't go into every single setting, but what we're going to do now is we're going to publish this course to our computer. Now, if this is a responsive design course, same procedure, except it's going to say publish for devices, because it's assuming that we're not just using this on computers, we're going to be using this course on our mobile phones and so on. And this is going to open up the publish to my computer or published for devices dialog. It's going to be very similar, whether it's to my computer or or for a responsive design project here. The choice you're going to make is always HTML5/SWF, or SWIF, as some people like to say. We're going to give our project a title. This is literally the title, not of the SCORM item, but of the zip file that you're going to ultimately create here. So like if you have naming conventions that you have to adhere to, maybe you do something like this, because people don't like spaces. Respect in the workplace. And even here, you might even want to just put in version 01, just so that we can make sure that we're working with the most up-to-date version here. I set my default publishing location to my desktop because I don't like looking for things later when I need to find them. But you can click on the folder icon here and browse to wherever location. Maybe you've got a special location in mind. One thing I will say about publishing and actually working with Adobe Captivate files in general, make sure that you are publishing not to a shared device or shared workspace or shared drive for that matter, because there can be problems, especially if network connectivity is an issue. I like to make sure I'm saving this to some place where I physically have access to my computer's hard drive, for example, just to make sure that there isn't a little network blip that's going to wreck this file if I'm trying to publish to, you know, a company server or something like that. So make sure you do that. Unless there's something you want to modify about your course later, and I'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I do with my projects is I'll edit one of the JavaScript files. I'm not going to show that here, but I do have a video that allows you to set up a background display image for that opening slide that's normally white with the big play button on it. I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel on how to change that to something of your own design. But there's some other things I do to customize my courses, customize the play button and things like that. So I might not always zip my files. I might zip them after I've made those modifications. But generally you can work within zip files if you're just copying files over and adding them to the zip folder. Some people get confused with this. The output format, it almost looks like Shockwave Flash is selected. What you need to know is that the option, whichever you select, is darker, as if we're pushing it into the interface to select it. So here in this example here, HTML5 is selected, Shockwave Flash is not selected. In the past, this was probably more of an issue, but some people would say, well, why don't I just select both? And then I create a hybrid version of my course that will run Shockwave Flash for devices that can use Shockwave Flash, and HTML5 for all the mobile devices, tablets, smartphones, etc. The problem with that, of course, there's additional problems in today's world because Shockwave Flash simply will not work at all. But the truth of the matter is Shockwave Flash will be chosen when by default. So we don't want Shockwave Flash chosen by default. In fact, nowadays, quite frankly, we don't want any Shockwave Flash at all. One thing I recommend is scalable HTML content. And this is particularly useful if, like me, you publish, let's say, a larger e-learning project. This is 1470 by 900. I'm getting closer to HD quality images and HD quality slide sizes here. It's not quite HD, but it's certainly better than the 800 by 600 that I used to choose before, and it would look very small. Scalable will stretch out the content to fill the browser window, but it will also reduce it, which is ideal if you're using a tablet or a smartphone. Not truly responsive design, but dynamic enough that the content will shrink or grow depending on the device screen size that you're dealing with here. You can click on more if you wish, but generally speaking, what we have here are things that you would have already dealt with anyway. So for example, your audio settings for the published version of your WAV files, your narration, whatever it might be, you could customize it at that point. If you hadn't already selected to display score, and that's your quiz results slide, you could override this and change it to yes. If you are, again, allowing users to publish and or allowing your learners to view this on a mobile device, you can add a little job aid in the upper right hand corner, and that will not only configure all of these options for your course, but present a little icon on your opening slide that they can look at and see how to navigate the course using these methods here. I'm going to actually turn this off in this case, but just know that it is available to you. Geolocation is a possibility as well. It's one thing that Adobe Captivate has. There's a couple of use cases for this. I won't go into those. You would know to turn this on if you needed it, but if you're not using it, leaving it at no is fine. Size and quality is fine. You can go with just the choices that are there. And you would have already established any accessibility options for this course. And of course, clicking on SCORM 2004 simply returns me to the preferences window that we've already seen. So nothing revolutionary here. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And this is going to then publish to my desktop because that's the location that I chose. Incidentally, you don't see it here. It's grayed out, but if I was using Adobe fonts, especially with dynamic text or with responsive design, I would need to input the, let's just go back there for a second there. I would need to input the domain URL of where this course was going to reside so that it could make the call to adobe.com, find the font that it needs, the web font that it needs to display your content correctly, and allow learners from that domain, the URL of your LMS or the URL of reviewmyelearning.com, so that you can properly view the course as it was meant to be seen with all the font choices. In this example here, I am using some Adobe fonts, but they're not going to be on any dynamic text, which is why this is grayed out here. So for example, this font that you see here, if you go into properties, you can see that it is Quattro Slab, which is one of the many Adobe fonts I have installed on my computer. And I use it for the titles here. If I was using Quattro Slab for like the score information, the correct questions, that would be different. I'm sticking with web safe fonts here, so it's not prompting me for that information. Just a little tip there. You might want to avoid Adobe fonts on non-responsive projects where the text is dynamic, because it's going to ultimately, if you don't set it up correctly with your Adobe Creative Cloud account, it's going to switch over to Tahoma or Times New Roman or something like that. Anyway, it's now safe, I would say, for us to exit out of Adobe Captivate. I'm going to go ahead and save those changes. It's just a sample course anyway. And you'll see, of course, that I have my packaged SCORM 2004 file right here. So at this point, we want to send this out. This comes to that question that I get. How do I share my e-learning with my manager, my stakeholder, my subject matter expert, without uploading it to the LMS or without uploading it to Amazon Web Services S3 account, which I'm not even sure how to configure and all that stuff. It's complicated. So I really recommend Review My eLearning for a number of different reasons. So here you can see I've got Review My eLearning, And I'm going to proceed. I do have an account with Review My eLearning because I use their service frequently when I wish to gather stakeholder material or stakeholder feedback on my material rather. So I'm going to show you the process as if I was a brand new user. We're not going to use my old account. We're just going to use it with the free account, which is what I recommend you start with. It's like a trial account. You'll get access to upload one e-learning course. And if you decide you like this service, you can, of course, then sign up for one of the more professional plans that are available here. So let's start with sign in, sign up. Now, I'm just going to get rid of this here. This is my old stuff there. But we actually need to start my free account. And I'm going to use this account here. I have a basic email address that I don't frequently use. So please don't send me anything in that email address. And so it's so infrequently used that I even forget the email address. I think this is it here though. Paul, let's go all lowercase there. Paul Wilson at bell.net. So let's start my free account. Thanks for signing up. We're going to check for an email from Review My eLearning in the Bell inbox there. So let's just do some quick searches for that. Could show up in my junk mail. Let's see, or maybe I didn't do my name right. Let's see here. Let's just move around and see if it shows up there. Did I use the right email address? Oh, no, that's fine. Let me just send something to myself here. Yeah, that's it. Paul Wilson at bell.net. Is that what I did? Is that what I used? So someone rewind the video and tell me if I used the right one there. Let's try that again. Paul Wilson at bell.net. Okay. And let's go back to mail, inbox, junk. Huh. Okay, so it's not showing up for some reason. Let's try a different email address here. I will use this. And we'll just go to my Gmail account here and see if that shows up. I don't have my two-factor authentication handy, so what will I do here? Well, we can look at the email that I received on my mobile device here, and I will click on confirm my account. And we'll do it this way too. This is probably easier. Okay, so I got this email here, confirm my account, which will then take me to this page, and now we just need to fill out some additional information. So I'm going to suggest a strong password in this case here, and let me just, oh, that will get saved anyway, so that's fine, and we'll activate that here. I'm going to copy that and keep it in my clipboard here because I don't want that to override my existing account. So I have a basic plan. with Review My eLearning. Sorry for the confusion there. And now we're ready to add a course. So I'm just going to, again, resize my browser so we can see my desktop, because this is so super easy. And your stakeholders, your subject matter experts, and you will thank me for this process, because some of the benefits of using Review My eLearning, even if you have just the single plan, single course plan like we've got set up here, are just so fantastic and so much more professional looking than if you were to just upload it to a web server and send someone a link. So let's go ahead and click on Add a Course. That was in the upper left-hand corner of the page. I clicked on it quickly. One of the things I really like about Review My eLearning is that you've got these little tutorials that come up as you're new to this environment. You'll get these little hints and tips on how to set up your course. So you get these little tutorials, and you can just go through these one by one and learn a little bit about their user interface as you go. You don't see this a lot on websites. Sometimes when you're using a new service like this, it is a little confusing and you don't really know what you're doing, but everything is, you got this nice little tutorial that happens live the first time you go into that. Plus there's links to support, and they also maintain a blog where they share a lot of really great information and ideas related to their website here. So, this is really as simple, I think. It's nice they have the tutorial, but honestly, grab your zip file, drag it to this field down here, and drop it in there. And of course, it's going to, first of all, create the file link there. If we click on Create Course, you'll see it upload, and the course is being created. And it's processing your upload. So give it a second. It will prompt you when it's done. If not, I find sometimes reloading this page will help. But we'll just see. There we go. So the course has finished processing. We can view now. And that will bring you to this page here. So here's your new course. Before you send invites, you may want to update some of the settings. We're going to do that here. We'll go through this little tour. You might want to change the name of the course. Remember, it got this from the manifest file. So it would have said here, Adobe Captivate project or something like that. So that's why it's so important to properly name your projects when you're publishing them. You could add labels, like if you wanted to put, project-related labels or topic-related labels, just to keep track of all your courses here. Now, the whole benefit of this is that I can send this course out for review to not only my subject matter expert to take a look at and make sure I got everything right, but we also want to get feedback from the stakeholder. We might even want to get feedback from your supervisor or manager who manages the learning and development team at your organization. So they might want to see it as well. Do we want all the users to see each other's comments? Well, you can decide that for your situation. I think there's value in seeing other people's comments, because if it's already been addressed, you don't want to respond with the same thing over and over again. When you do this with other methods, quite often you're soliciting feedback via email. And, if you get 100 emails about the same thing, it's not very helpful for you. So, and it can be actually difficult to, wade through all that feedback. You can decide how much privacy you want to apply to this course. So, if the subject matter experts and the reviewers and the stakeholders are outside your organization, maybe you want to have them have a public invite, or maybe you want them to log in with their specific login email address that you would assign to them there. You can put a list of developers. So if you're not the only person working on this course, you can include that here. And right now, so far, all I've got is myself as a reviewer here. And if I get all the links, of course, I can send links to all these reviewers to email to them, but you can actually manage that from here. So let's start a new review cycle. So we'll go ahead and do that. Oh, let's exit the tour here. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Starting a new review cycle would be, I've made some changes, I'm uploading a new version of the course, and I want them to take a look at it again. In this case here, we're just going to exit the tour, and we have our course here. So we might want to do several things right now. So again, we can share the comments, yes. Do we want them to require login? No. And maybe we could make it a public invite. So if you wanted to take a look at this course on Review My eLearning, I can put the public invite in the live chat there, so you guys can check that out if you want. We can also view the course comments, but I'll show you a couple of ways that you can do this. And we can add additional reviewers here. So I could type in the email address of review my, I don't know their email addresses at reviewmyeLearning.com, but let's just pretend that's one of them there. And you can add a message here. Hey, check out this course. Again, don't start emailing the email addresses that you see here. Most of these are made up and they may not go anywhere anyway. And we'll just add James as a reviewer here. And we're good to go. So we can view the course and comments. Let's go ahead and do that. And this is going to open up a new browser window, and we can begin my review here. And this will launch the course, and you'll see you've got this framed effect here with an area to the right. Alternatively, you can put it down below if you prefer that. We can type in our comments about this here. So this is the opening slide. This is the slide that is really just that background image, kind of grayed out. Don't really like the play button. So maybe let's mark it as a graphics concern, and I'll just say update the image to look less grayed out, and replace the play button with something nicer. Okay, so I can save that there. Let's move this back to the side here. Anyone else reviewing, because of the way I set this up, they can actually see my comments there, and they can either add to that discussion or they can add their own comments here. And the beauty of this is that this will still show up on what is officially my first slide, because that autoplay image is really my first slide. But let's say I had some concerns about this slide here. So, I don't want the continue button to appear until all the narration is done. So hide the continue button until narration completes. I've received emails like that, or worse, like this. You have a spelling mistake, right? And they don't tell you where it is. In fact, if it's through email, you might not even know what slide it's on. But at least here with Review My eLearning, I know it pertains to this slide. And of course, it wouldn't take very long to find a spelling mistake on a simple slide like this. So that information is available there. You also have controls as the person sending out the review that you can approve these requests for changes or these feedback items as you go through them. And it's a great way for you as a developer to keep track of what you've completely fixed and what's still left to work on. So there's some really fantastic features with this tool here, of course. And then, of course, you can continue, and then you'll get another new set of items that you can comment on, whatever it might be here. So here's a little knowledge check interaction that I've built. Let's choose this. Oh, that's the wrong answer. Let's go back and review that material again. And let's take another attempt here. Correct. And you can provide feedback here. I would prefer that the selected item be blue or something like that, and you can mark that as a text concern or whatever, or just general if you wish. You can choose multiple choices there. So, and then of course, once that's saved, once the user has gone through and completed the course, let's just go through and do everything that this course requires me to do here. And so what would I do here is I would document the incident. This is my 2-question quiz, all of the above. And then of course I arrive on my quiz results slide. Everything is fine. Hit continue. And this will go to my final slide where we give them congratulations. And then I can exit and mark this as complete. So now that I've done my review as the reviewer, I can come back here. Let me refresh this page. And I'm just going to exit from this right now. If I scroll down, we can see all of the comments here. So as the developer, I can check through this. I don't need to launch the course to see that, but you can view this slide. It will take you immediately, once you click play, that slide in question. So if you need to check something out, you can certainly do so here. And of course, we can choose to unlock the reviewer if they've completed the course. And you can also view the SCORM log associated with that viewer's attempt as well. And this can include, especially if you're more of a technical person, you can find out information about what they did here. So I can see that they got this particular interaction here correct. They chose document the incident. And of course there's the description associated with that. Also too, we can see their score up here is 20%. And the second question, so we've got all the feedback, all the information pertaining to their results here. So this is really good information. So not only can you use it for review purposes, but you can use reviewmyelearning.com for Q&A as well. So you want to test the course, make sure it works with SCORM. We can see here clearly that it works fine with SCORM. And then of course we can exit from here. Again, like I said, I could unlock this reviewer and then allow them to make another attempt if they wish. But if you've made some changes now to this course and you want to get another round of review, because it's very seldom that an e-learning course is approved on the first cycle, we could start a new review cycle, and I'll just exit the tour there and upload a fresh copy of our SCORM file once we've gone and made those changes. Invite the same folks back, take a look at the course, and of course give you feedback again, hopefully bringing you a little bit closer to what you're trying to achieve, and that's a signed off course. So that's pretty much it. And of course, again, the beauty of Review My eLearning is that you're preparing your course for the learning management system. So when you do finally have approval, take the very same zip file, upload it to your regular LMS, and follow those procedures as you would normally. But again, Review My eLearning gives you a real professional experience. Most important thing though is it takes a lot of the guesswork out of the feedback that you're getting from your subject matter experts and your stakeholders and your manager and whoever else needs to approve your e-learning courses. So, and I've seen them. I've gotten those emails where I have no idea what they're talking about, but having that information right next to the slide in question allows you to know exactly what they're talking about when they give you those items to feedback there. That's it for today, guys. I want to thank you for attending this live stream. If you've not attended one of my live streams before, normally I reserve those for members of my YouTube channel. So if you wish to join my YouTube channel as an official member, you can click the join button that you'll see on your page on YouTube here, and you can choose one of the different options or levels of support that you can basically pledge towards me to get access to those particular perks that are available. But at the very least, I encourage everyone to subscribe to my YouTube channel and make sure that you turn notifications on. That's the little bell next to the subscribe button. When you do that, you'll be notified when new content comes out on my YouTube channel. Looking forward to seeing you again real soon. Thanks for today.
If you thought this video was helpful, please like and share it with your colleagues. If you need help with Adobe Captivate, hire Paul for one-on-one instruction. Paul's goal is to focus on lessons based on your specific needs. Visit his website at captivateteacher.com. And don't forget